Hi, I'm iKhoN. Sitting here with Royalite today. How you doing?
Good. Thank you for having me.
Start out with a little bit of like a background story. Who you are, where you come from, what you do.
Well, currently right now I'm with Hotslog, which is a stat site for Heroes of the Storm. In the past, I've done Heroes of the Storm tournaments. I was running the tournaments, managing tournaments, also doing crowdfunding for tournaments. I also, in the past, have done things with OpenRaid, which is a platform for WoW players to get together and do raids or trying to do content that is sometimes very difficult to find a willing partner for. So basically, my background has always been in gaming and always been connecting players and trying to help them get things done.
Online you go by Royalite. Is there any special meaning behind your handle?
Growing up, my brother played a lot of Counter-Strike, and I believe it was 1.2 was when we were playing that. And he went by the name Royal Assassin. And I always liked the name Royal. It was also my school mascot was the Royals. And so I wanted to take the name, but I wanted it to be unique. And I thought, okay, I'll tack something on the end there. And I kept thinking, what could I do? Some ideas. And then I was like, like Cool Whip. They have Cool Whip Light. How would I add light, like diet light? So I went with Royalite. And I thought I was so clever. I was like, I came up with this name. No one has this name. And then I find out that it's a Canadian gas company that went out of business. There's the Royalite typewriters and the Royalite not SUVs, RVs. So I wasn't as unique and clever as I thought, but still, it's a fun name to go by.
It's unfortunate. At least it's nothing super ridiculous. At least it's something cool like RVs and gas.
Yeah, gas companies.
Most of your past has been in Blizzard games. Have you done anything else or just been pretty much Blizzard focused?
Well, actually, I got involved in quite embarrassingly a Chinese MMO called Conquer Online, and I started involved in the community then. This was kind of like my first entry into this sort of arena, and I became the head moderator of their forums. It was an extremely active forum. We had about a team at our peak of about 35 moderators. So it was, organizing them and then trying to keep the forums from not catching on fire. And I really learned an enormous amount about people and what people can post online, and had some really crazy experiences with dealing with people when they're at sometimes their worst moments, because the game was kind of like Eve,
Okay.
Eve
Yeah.
Online, where you can scam each other and you can be
Oh
like
no, it's like part of the
incredibly.
ecosystem and stuff.
Yeah, so in this game, you could spend like a year working on your piece of equipment. It was kind of like WoW, but you had to build your equipment and it took a lot of time and money. And then you could lose it and have someone steal it from you. And so it was an extremely exhilarating moment when you managed to get something like that from someone, and it was like a really big high. But then the other side was someone just lost like a year's worth of energy and time. And so it wasn't unheard of to hear of people like smashing their monitors. And as you can imagine, in that type of environment, it was extremely toxic. So on the forums, that all came out. You heard about the drama and people, trying to hook up and scam each other. And it was really a boy the whole time. It was just like
Oh
crazy.
no, it's a trap.
Yeah.
It's a
Yeah,
trap. It's a
there were plenty
lie.
of traps. And that was like the classic trap, and it was unbelievable how many times people fell for it.
That's
But
awesome.
yeah, it was. So I actually met my husband in that game. It was fun because it was like a soap opera and there were all these stories, and it was very much sandbox because people created their alliances and you were trying to make yourself more powerful and build your gear up, and you would go to war. And then like when someone lost something, like we all tried to get together and help them out and either get it back or get back against that person, like revenge. And it was very addicting. And the game is actually still around, but it's terrible now. It's absolutely terrible.
That's all.
It's
I think I've
sad.
seen it before around the space, but I've never really looked into it. So that's pretty interesting. I didn't know it was that crazy, to be honest.
Yeah, it was very explosive growth. It was actually one of the first MMOs to ever figure out the free to play model. They also discovered whales on accident. They were a Chinese company, so they didn't understand the American market at all. They believed that the American market would not want pay to win type model. But they believed mistakenly that in the American market that there was internet cafes. So they had the option to buy this $1,000 package for the game, but you actually had to prove that you were a business in order to buy the bulk pack. And then you were supposed to sell it to your customers. Well, what ended up happening is because of the addictive nature of the game and how like some people just had this huge drive to like get back at other people, they would fake being a business and buy these bulk packs. And then after a while, TQ Digital as a company figured, why do we have this restriction? Let's just sell it to people if they're going to buy it. And you would hear about people dropping like $4,000 in a month buying the bulk packs, and it was just
Oh my god, that is
yeah,
crazy.
so they were kind of the pioneers in that aspect, and you can definitely thank them for what has all since followed because they mistakenly stumbled onto that aspect of the industry.
Dealing with them versus dealing with the Blizzard space, which one would you say you would like more? The Conquer end to deal with the forum stuff, or is it better to do like more of like a tournament style?
The Blizzard stuff, it was extremely stressful with the Conquer stuff. I had to deal with people wanting to commit suicide, and I was trying to convince cops, the police that, one instance was, a 13-year-old kid coming to me saying that he'd swallowed all these pills. And this is some time ago. And so I recruited my roommate and I'm like, you got to help me here. And we're trying to like tag team of talking to him and getting the police online. And they don't believe us at all. They think we're just being completely ridiculous. I'm getting a little choked up about it because that sucks to be in that situation, to like hear someone who's trying to kill themselves and no one will believe you. Like it was just a gut-wrenching moment. And there were those types of things. And so, I was actually able to go in the game and I tracked down his brother because I remember in the conversation that his brother had played and what his name was. And then I was finally able to get through to his parents, and the parents had called the 911 and they got him help and they pumped his stomach and everything was okay and he got more help. But still, like if that situation had turned out bad, it's not something that I really want to contemplate. It was an extremely stressful environment. And then going to Blizzard, like their games are so much more positive. Like, yes, they have drama, but like the community is still so much more positive. When I entered into the esports space and running the tournaments, there were, I think, 5 other organizations running tournaments. And it was just so open. And it was like, we'll help you and we'll join together and you can learn from us. And here's how we do our rules. And, oh, you can't run your tournament tonight because you have a family emergency. We'll cover for you. It was just, night and day. It's no question. And then on top of it, you're dealing with a Chinese company who has no scruples. They're just using this as their cash cow. I enjoyed the people in the game and I made some incredible friendships and relationships. I mean, like that's how I met my husband and, we're married and we have a family. Yeah, it's not something that I could have stayed in. It really wears you down being in that type of environment.
I could imagine. Yeah, that sounds very, very mentally stressful at the very least.
I mean, and if you want to hear the other worst story is I had a 15-year-old who broke up with her boyfriend and she had sent him a bunch of nude pictures.
Oh boy, here it comes.
And yeah, he's in Canada and she's here in the US. So now we got an international incident. He and his buddies are posting her nudes all over our forums. Then they're like talking about getting the FBI involved. And then we're stressing. We're like, do we save these pictures? Like, or do we destroy them? Like, is this evidence? Like, we're talking, 10 years ago. Like, these questions were just not something that we knew what to deal with. I'm having her on IM with me, and, she's devastated. And I'm like trying to keep her pictures from being plastered all over the place. It was probably, one of the worst times out of the whole time. Like, I didn't sleep for 2, 3 days during that incident just because I was trying to help her and trying to like not break any laws and trying to cooperate and do the things that I needed to do. That was like, you know, so glad I don't have to deal with that stuff anymore. And
I could only
kudos
imagine.
to the people
Oh
who do,
no.
because like
This is
it's
gut-wrenching,
just,
especially on the internet.
yeah.
It's
Oh
hard.
yeah.
It's hard finding people that are willing to even cooperate with you on your own team in a lot of online games nowadays. Just with just so much toxicity and whatnot. So having an actual incident that could affect your life for the rest of your life, basically, is hard. It's really, really hard. There needs to be more people in the space that understand that there are a lot of consequences to stuff that you can do online and just personal security and all of that jazz. It's hard finding people that actually care about other people. Like I've been getting into a little bit of League recently again, and it blows my mind the amount of people that just come into these games just as toxic as can be, just openly flaming. Like, have no cares. They're not going to get any kind of consequence for doing it. Or their accounts get banned. Well, they have like 15 of them, so it doesn't matter. It's rough seeing people that actually genuinely care, like yourself, and a handful of others that are in different scenes and stuff that genuinely care about people and what they do in the scenes and the games and the time that they put into these, versus a lot of the toxicity you see everywhere.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, it was what made it, the benefits were that you saw people come together and have a great time and have laughs and genuine memories. Yeah, it's just being with Blizzard now and being with Heroes of the Storm especially. It's just so inclusive. People are so much more open. I tried to get involved in another game, and I won't say which game, but to expand into that scene and to try and run tournaments. And I was really surprised how immediately I was shut down by prominent members of that community because they felt like another tournament would be competition. Even though, like in the hero scene, we had all these orgs running tournaments, but we all respected each other and, chose our own day of the week and helped each other out because we understood that the more options that we gave people, that we could only grow the scene. And when you're talking to a different scene and they don't have that attitude, they're just shutting you down and saying, no, you would just be competition. We're not going to help you. Well, then, I hear through the grapevine how they don't have such a great esports budget and they're upset about it. And it's like, well, you reap what you sow.
Yeah, sucks to
Like,
suck at that point.
Yeah. I mean, you either help each other out and lift each other up, or don't be surprised when you have really bad results and people don't want to invest in your scene. I mean, it's not rocket science.
People just need to be nice to each other at the end of the day. They just need to be like, hey, this guy's having a bad day, or maybe I shouldn't start the conversation with, hey, kill yourself. Like, shit.
My first game in League of Legends, I downloaded it and I played one game and I said to everyone, hello, this is my first game. And everyone left. And I think it was against AI.
Oh no.
So yeah, everyone just left the game. And I was like, okay, this is probably like the epitome of what this game is like.
Oh, they must all be in the same house when their power went out. Unfortunately.
Oh, yeah, you're right. That makes a lot more sense.
Bless, man. I don't know. I don't know if it's just because I've had to have real life interaction more, or if I'm older. I'm not saying that some of these up and coming people haven't had real life interaction, but it's definitely a different space and time. Even just in the past 10 years or so, it's a completely different world now, and it's crazy to think. Crazy to think that I was making fun of my parents and older people that were telling me that when I was growing up, and now that I'm 26 or 27, it's pretty insane seeing these people grow up and not have, or have more than I had growing up as far as entertainment interaction, and not have to do some of the basics. So when they get in certain situations, they just don't have the experience to really handle it correctly. So
Yeah, I see what you're saying because they're growing up with dealing with
yeah,
people
they're just
through
complete.
IM or through their phone or chatting with them through that, and they're not growing up with a lot of the social interactions requiring face to face.
Yeah, I think that definitely has an effect. I don't think it has much an effect on it as people think. I think it's more of the actual consequences of being mean to someone in person versus through like the internet. Like if you were to go up to someone and say, hey, kill yourself, you'd probably get punched in the face. So that's why people are usually generally more nice to people like in person because there's actual consequences. If we saw something like the way the Koreans do their internet and their games and stuff, how everything's kind of synced up to a person and to their social security numbers and stuff, and they have actual
Oh my gosh, what a
consequences and
nightmare that
stuff.
would be here.
It would be insane. But having that cloak of being an anon on online basically gives you the right or the will to do whatever you want. So it's rough being productive or trying to give back to these communities when you have to deal with people like that on a consistent daily basis.
Well, and it's unfortunate because, I think, and I don't know where this is from, but I heard, it takes one mean comment, and to counteract that, you need 10. That negativity, unfortunately, rings a lot louder. One of the things that I really try and do is focus on the good people and focus on that a lot more than the negativity. Because if you focus so much on the negativity, it will just, consume you. And there are just so many really great people. And sometimes really great people just have a bad day every once in a while. At the end, I try, like I said, focus on those, keep your good people close, and you'll get a lot back from that.
I agree. 100% agree. Let's switch things over to something a little bit more lighthearted. I didn't really intend for this to go that direction, but it's fine. What are your thoughts on Black Ops 4 being in the Blizzard client? I heard some things online. I saw some stuff online of people being very upset that Call of Duty is coming to the Blizzard client for PC.
Is this coming from Blizzard fans or coming from Call of Duty fans? Or is it both?
It's a mix of both. I've seen both, yeah.
I mean, I think Blizzard has a lot of flaws, but they genuinely go out of their way to try and make games that they feel are good. They go against the grain. And I think, Overwatch and the diversity of their heroes is a perfect example. Junkrat is a disabled character, and yet no one laughs or makes fun of his disability. They all go, "Oh shit, the guy with the explosives is coming at me or firing at me." They have a different environment, they have a different aura. They aren't as predatory, although I'm sure other people will disagree with me, as some of the other games or some of the other gaming companies. I've never played Call of Duty. I won Destiny, the collector's edition from Discord. Thank you, Discord.
Oh, that's sick.
Yeah,
That's
through a random
awesome.
drawing. So I played it a little bit, but I didn't get into it. It just, like, Activision doesn't have a great reputation.
I can agree to
And
that
so
100%. Yeah.
that's what bothers me is I'm afraid that Activision worth ethic and their culture is going to start seeping into Blizzard. And it's not going to be about, okay, let's have Symmetra be an autistic character and show how someone with autism can be really badass. It's going to be about, like, okay, gun skins and how can we do gambling?
Yeah,
I
this is complete. Yeah, I agree. I actually didn't know that does Symmetra really have autism?
Yeah, and actually, it was a really cute story. A little boy with autism wrote, Jeff. I don't remember his last name.
Jeff from Overwatch.
Yeah,
That's his last name.
that's his last name, Jeff from Overwatch. Yeah, he wrote him and said, I really relate to Symmetra. And then Blizzard came out and said, yeah, we made her character with that aspect in mind. And so, yeah, she does. And I think that's really what's amazing about those characters and why a lot of people relate to them so well is they have their dynamics and flaws, if you want to call them, or just interesting aspects to them, but they're not what's solely defining them. So in the case of Symmetra, she's autistic, but you don't ever see anywhere or any mention of it. But autistic people see her and recognize those traits. It's very empowering to have these, really badass characters that are blowing and killing and being successful and superheroes, they're identifiable and people can relate to them. And I really hope that, Blizzard doesn't lose that and it becomes all about the money. And I know that there's issues with the loot box and things of that nature, but after seeing and dealing with some scummy companies and what they can really do, they're definitely more thoughtful in their actions, Blizzard, in comparison to what some other unreputable companies will do.
I agree, especially the loot box aspect of everything that's happening right now with all the gambling and everything. I've actually had a conversation with Trader recently about this. We think that Blizzard's actually on the very mild end of all the gambling stuff that's happening, especially over Europe and the China thing that happened a handful of months ago. We believe that Blizzard's a very, very mild. I wouldn't even really consider it like gambling. It's kind of like in the ballpark, but it's just kind of just how it is. But compared,
you don't need a skin.
Yeah. Compared to Counter-Strike, for example, that would be like the hardest you could go in that space as far as gambling and everything.
Yeah, and I'm not familiar with how they work, but I do remember the whole EA, that Star Wars fiasco.
Yeah,
I don't
Battlefront
remember
2.
exactly. Yeah, so to get a character that apparently was very powerful that you would want, you had to do the loot boxes, or I don't know the whole situation, but what I got from it was that it's just continuing to devolve, that the standards and expectations of people are not being honored because there's about 10% of the population that will go overboard and will be a whale. And that's what these games are hoping to really target, is that the people who have addictive personalities, who have addiction problems. That's really scummy.
The biggest thing for just the Blizzard, how they present themselves in the gaming world, as you were saying with like Symmetra and the identifiable characters, I think a lot of it has to come down to that these characters actually feel like characters, or feel like they have a bigger purpose than, for example, in Destiny or Call of Duty. Like a lot of these characters have the same faces, or they're not really identifiable, stuff like that. They're all, it's kind of like bland, like, oh, it's just about the shooting, where in Blizzard titles, it's all just about the story, the experience, the overall everything. So that would be one of the biggest reasons why Blizzard games are looked up to and stuff, is just for that whole experience. And if it has Blizzard's name on it, then it has a good time, basically.
Well, I mean, they've had their failures and their mistakes. What I have appreciated with them is that when they have had a mistake, like with Warcraft, and this is some time ago, but like, you remember Greg Street? I believe he's the head designer guy of LoL, head game lead of LoL.
Okay. I'm there. I'm following you.
Okay. All right.
Sorry.
He was very
not familiar.
open with communication, and he would admit that there was a mistake. We messed up. We experimented with something. It didn't work out. And to try and use a Heroes of the Storm example, because that's where I come from a lot, even though we've been talking about a lot of other different things, is, you have Heroes of the Dorm. They ended up making a partnership with Facebook to stream the whole tournament and everything exclusively on Facebook, which, as you can imagine, didn't work out so well. People were like, I don't want my grandma, to know about me watching Heroes of the Dorm. People put the real life out there on Facebook. They don't really want to incorporate their gaming life. That's why a lot of us have gamer tags. We sometimes keep those a little bit separate for employment, or you don't want your family to nag about how much you game, or however. After Facebook fell flat, and I think the joke was that there was about 15 people watching this tournament that used to be on CNN, or no, not CNN. Wow, that's a slip up. I mean, ESPN 2 and 3, I believe it was on those channels. So to go from the viewership that those experience to the viewership that's on Facebook, they knew they screwed up, but they had to follow through with their contract. And then, the next year they didn't do it. They were willing to experiment and try it out. It didn't work. We messed up. We know Twitch is the way to go. And I value that, because I think that if you don't experiment, if you don't take risks, if you don't try, if you don't go against the grain, then you're going to be stuck. and you're just going to be like everyone else, and you're not going to be able to separate yourself from the herd. But when you take risks, when you do something different, you're going to have a lot of people telling you, no, don't do that. And sometimes it's very successful, and sometimes you're going to fall flat on your face, but you need to take those risks if you want to stand out.
I agree. If not, you end up with the same Counter-Strike for, 25 years now, whatever it's at. To wrap things up, our last little segment here, you want to talk about a little bit about Hot Slogs and what you do over there and what Hot Slogs is all about for people who do not know?
Well, Hot Slogs is a site for Heroes of the Storm that you can look up either your individual performance or win rates of heroes. I've only been with them just 2 months now, I think maybe 3. I'm not exactly sure exactly when I started. They had a reputation problem. This isn't something that we tried to hide or not talk about. The original owner of the site did not pay attention to public relations, was not very involved within the community, and did not take in community feedback into the site. And so we've since taken over, and it's been a very interesting challenge because we've been trying to take in what everyone's saying, trying to explain that we're listening. And while, the previous owner didn't, we're different. Interestingly enough, today, getting feedback of like, you guys suck, use alternative sites, use this, use that, because we run malicious ads and all this other stuff, which is what the previous owner did. And trying to like explain, hey, check us out now. We actually have changed how the ads worked. It shouldn't be like it was before. You can use ad blocker now. It's been a really fun challenge to try and change people's minds and then try and make new features for the community to make this tool useful. So you can look at your numbers and then figure out how to improve.
It's definitely a interesting situation to be in, I would say. I don't know what I would do in a situation like that. What is your title over there?
I would say right now I'm a consultant. Yeah, actually, that's probably my official title is consultant, but it's pretty much just 3 people at the moment, a writer, a developer, and then I'm kind of, the consultant, and just letting them know what the scene's about, trying to act as a mediary between the people on Reddit and social media, Twitter, etc., and then bringing that to the table. And then, when they have questions, answering them so that they want to make a useful tool for Heroes of the Storm. But it's Zam that now owns Hot Slogs, and they also own the more popular sites like Wowhead and I believe Top Deck. I might be saying the Hearthstone sister site wrong, so please don't get too upset. But that's not something that I deal with. And, they have their hands all over the place. So they're kind of the jack of all trades, but master of none. And I'm kind of bringing in the mastery for them so they can understand, like, okay, we'll navigate this way, because they understand the basics of the game, but they're still new to the community.
At least you have a cool title and cool responsibilities. Your title could basically be a movie, so any title that can be transformed into a movie title, I'm all about. The consultant.
Dun, dun, dun.
It's like the accountant. You ever see that? That came out last year. It's pretty good.
No, I didn't. That's with Affleck, isn't it?
Yeah.
Ben Affleck? Yeah.
God, he's so hot.
No, I didn't see that.
I think that's all the questions I had for today.
Okay.
So if you want to do any shout outs or any last thoughts.
I would like to do a shout out to my husband, Amit, and a shout out to Hot Slogs, of course. And if you're into Heroes of the Storm, check us out. Please upload your replays. That's how we get our stats and be really accurate. I also like to do a shout out to Heroes Hype. That's the tournament organization that I was involved with. They're great people. And then I'd also like to do a last shout out to the Heroes of the Storm Blizzard people, because they are really phenomenal people and they share the passion that the community has with the game. We're small, but we're a really great group to be around. And the game is just a really fun, awesome game. And it's unfortunate how it had a really rough start in the beginning. And so now people kind of discount us for, I think, unfair reasons. But definitely it's a blast to be in this scene.
It can take a little bit of time, but you'll get there, especially with you on the case.
Okay, thank you.
What did you say your husband's name was?
Otmit. It's actually Timbo spelled backwards. His real name is Tim.
Oh, okay. I thought it was his
yeah.
actual name, and I was like, dude, that is
No.
such a sick name. Where do I get one like that, please? I was about to call mom and be like, Ma, you fucked up. All right, guys. Well, that's it for today. And until next time.